Okay guys, now let's talk about our good friend, the past. Okay? Now to talk about the past, we need to have a timeline. So I'm going to use this ruler to represent the timeline, okay? Let's imagine that this area here to our left side is the past. So the present is somewhere around here, okay? So everything behind the present is the past, right? When we talk about punctual actions, when I say punctual, remember point, okay? Specific. I use what we remember using all the time. It's the simple past. Remember that, guys? Simple past. That's what we use. So, for example, yesterday, last week, 2 months ago, in 2015. They are all in the past and I can find them in the timeline, right? Maybe here is yesterday. So maybe here is last week. So maybe here is, I don't know, 2 months ago is here. And here, let's say it's into 2015, okay? The proportion here doesn't matter. What matters is that you can find those time markers in your timeline, okay? That's why you use the simple past, because it's specified. You can find it, okay? Now, if you cannot find it because it's not specific or specified, we use, remember, the present perfect. So for the present perfect, I'm going to use words such as recently, lately, ever, never, again, or before, things like that, okay? So how can you find those words in the time marker? You can't, okay? Because they're not specified. So I can say, for example, and I'm going to write two examples here. I traveled to Japan in 2015. I have traveled to Japan recently, for example. Okay? So the big difference is I know exactly when the action happened. I don't know. It's vague. It's something that I cannot pinpoint. I cannot find the location in the timeline, okay? Now, this is normal. Let's talk about something that is a little more complicated. Or actually not really, to be honest. Let's take 2 points in the timeline. Let's imagine here and here, last week and 2 weeks ago, for example. If I connect those points, I have an action that is not a point, but it's a line. Or, actually this is not even a line. It could be a line, right? It can be a line. It's connecting 2 points in the past. And there is a certain duration here now, right? This is from last week or 2 weeks ago until last week, right? Which means this is not just a point in the timeline, which means it's not something I cannot identify, I cannot pinpoint in the timeline. It's something that started in one point and ended in another point. So what do we use for that? We use our good friend past continuous, right? And a very good example would be I was studying for the test last week or 2 weeks ago. You started here and you finished here. It's something with a duration, right? Perfect. And the last one, and maybe this is the most complicated, is when you have 2 points in the past and you want to connect them. There's no duration involved. It's just one that happened before the other. So what is the verb tense we use for that? The last one we learned, it's the past perfect, remember? So the past perfect will be like this. There's a point here and a point here. Let's say 1 month and 2 months ago, okay? So I had already watched the film before we went to the movies. So I had already watched the film before we went to the movies. Can you see I'm connecting two actions in the past? Had watched and went. Which action happened first? Okay, had watched, right? Why? Because I used the had, I used the past perfect tense. So this action happened here, for example. And this action happened here, for example. So I hope this helps you guys. It's not so complicated. I think you should probably focus on past perfect. Just remember to look for words that are going to help you before. In the case of past perfect, sometimes we're going to use when as well. For present perfect, remember to use these words here. Recently, lately, ever, never, again, before. For simple past, remember that you're going to see words like this. Yesterday, last week, 2 months ago, in 2015, okay? In past continuous, it doesn't really matter. What matters is if the action had a duration or not, okay? That's it.